we meet again. Cathar Love 81. Catharism, the payoff. There's little that is done in life by ourselves and others that isn't done because of the payoff hopefully awaiting us. But the payoff can be of many kinds, of course. One can be paid in cash or a reward of some particular type. But payoffs can be because we just feel good about it. One does. Yesterday, I was at the bank. The elderly fellow in front of me, he dropped his walking stick. I left the queue and went over, picked it up, put it on the counter for him, and as he walked away, he said, he said, thanks very much for that. It was of no big deal and of no consequence, but the plain fact was, I felt good for doing it. I didn't do it to feel good, but I did feel good after doing it. So that was my payoff. Catharism, the payoff. Well, Catharism is a process. None of us are born Cathars. We evolve through one way or another, or a number of directions, but it's basically leading us towards Catharism. Firstly, being aware of it. Oh, this is interesting. You become more aware, more comprehending of it, and it seems to suit you, and it's possibly filling a hole for you, and so you're drawn to it. Or Catharism, for whatever reason, is drawing you towards it. Democracy is the process. In fact, it was only a week or so ago that it was the 800th anniversary. A few amusing things to diversify for a second. This tourist, the Magna Carta was signed at Runnymede in England. King John, and he was forced by the barons to sign the Magna Carta, giving people rights. And so this tourist, he was unfortunately he was running somewhat late. Anyhow, he got there and he saw his guide and he said, "Oh, well, when is it being signed? When was it signed?" And the guide said, "Oh," he said, 12:15. The tourist looked at his watch and said, "Damn," he said, "it's missed it. It's 1 o'clock already." Another twist to the Magna Carta was this person talking about it and talking about democracy, and he said if they could see what democracy is like around the world today, he said Magna Carta would be turning in her grave. Okay, amusing. But the point coming from that is that democracy, as we know it, we had the Greeks, and we had who had brought in democracy, where the very word came from. I believe Iceland was the first place to actually have democracy working as a process in law. And then of course we had the Magna Carta, and slowly we developed our laws, and the people are all subject to the law, and the law is based on basically humanity. We call it a Judeo-Christian, but in actual fact it's simply it's being fair and just, and also that's to both sexes. So the law and democracy is quite different to religion, because all our major religions, women, which I find still amazing, and they're second class. So certainly with Catharism and the Cathars, women were equal. Once you became a Cathar, there was equality for all. Revolutionary for the time. But the payoff for being a Cathar, Catharism? Well, I presume for one reason or another, one is drawn towards it. My first really encounter was the Cathars and reincarnation, which I mentioned before, by Dr. Arthur Gurdon. And then over a process and seeing various people, trying to find my guide, but eventually I did locate my guide. I got to the point where we used to have conversations. She did most of the talking, I did most of the listening, and that was for a period of 10 years, and that she's disappeared. And so I've had these Cathar experiences, and I think, to my mind, from what I know, if we look at, with the Cathars, we can look at medieval Catharism, which was at the first millennium until they were wiped out by the church and the Inquisition. So these were the medieval Cathars, and they were a Christian religion, and they followed Christianity and its basic love thy neighbour, that idea of love, and they carried it through, and they lived their lives accordingly. And they weren't into war, they were into equality, they went into population. They were the reason being that Catharism is about you. It's not about bringing children in the world and making them Cathar. There's nothing to do with that. If you have children, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. And these days, with the world's population, possibly the less children we have and other people have, it's better for the world. For the world, just to survive. So, but with the Cathars and with modern Catharism, or Catharism for a different age, it's non-religious, it's philosophical, it's a way of living. It doesn't require churches, it doesn't require taxes, it doesn't require, Catharism doesn't need your support. There's no list of followers, or add me to the list, no list. It's using the medium, modern technology, the internet, the web, the fact it's easier to print our own books. It's all these modern things that Catharism is using to disseminate itself around the world and bring awareness of the Cathar philosophy. Again, the payoffs. Well, a number. If one recognizes that one was created by a source, there has to be a source of something. Nothing comes from nothing. Even the first particle, the first big bang, the particle had to explode, had to have a source. That source is the creator of all. And although that source is unknown, we know it is the source of love and healing. And the action of the source in creating us, rather than creating us for a test, if you're a good boy or a good girl, you go here, and if you're a bad boy and a bad girl, you'll go there. Catharism has got nothing to do with that. It's not about salvation or damnation. It's simply about us revolving lifetime after lifetime as we learn, and hopefully we learn our true identity and our true purpose in life within those lifetimes, and slowly we're evolving step by step until we get to the point where there is no need to further evolve, unless for some specific reason you wish to be reincarnated. In my case, I'm happy to be reincarnated again, because I want to see Catharism well and truly established, and if I can get off the wheel of reincarnation, then I'm more than happy to do so. But until that actually happens, I'm happy to stay on the wheel of reincarnation and assist in that respect. So what has certainly one has no fear of death. Death is simply the portal to a bit of R&R, rest and recuperation in the world of spirit, until we are reincarnated again for some purpose in the next lifetime, for us to further evolve to that point where we no longer need to do it again, have any further reincarnations. So fear, and that's most people's ultimate fear, is if not the fear of death, the fear of dying. And so from a Cathar point of view, well, there's nicer ways to die one way rather than another. Obviously, pop off in one's sleep is quite a pleasant way to go. And also, with Catharism, certainly suicide is out of the question, but if one is ill and one is dying for one reason or another, we are not in the business of delaying that. What we want is a quality of life and also a quality of death. Euthanasia is fine. If you want to commit suicide at that point because you've got some particular sickness, that's fine as well. I suggest don't make a mess when you're doing it. So that's the consequence. The other thing is, one doesn't have to go around proclaiming you're a Cathar, because Cathar is something that's internally and within you and then within yourself, and it's up to you who you want to tell, what you want to tell. That's entirely your business. And certainly a Cathar life is a good life, and of course you are trying to bring more goodness into the world, and sometimes that may mean you standing up for a principle or being a whistleblower or whatever it is, because that is simply what you believe is the right thing to do, or from a Cathar point of view, the most loving thing to do. So that's one payoff, is certainly peace of mind and tranquility of soul. If 300 people die in a ferry or something, okay, it's terrible, but each person's only dying once, and they're going to die anyway. They just happen to die at that year, at that time, and it was all together. But each person is simply only dying once. By fact, the fact that 300 died at one time, for whatever reason, doesn't make it 300 times worse. Each person is simply dying once. We don't need to make an abstraction of it and make it worse than what it is. So that's one of the biggest things. Now, if we could do something about anything to make it right, we are, as a Cathar, duty bound to try and do something. It might be helping with aid, or to someone who's less fortunate. This is just simply being a decent human being. Now, the payoff is with Catharism. I think that I'm aware of, apart from one's peace of mind and tranquility of soul, the fact that you can sleep well. The payoff, if we look at the Cathars and reincarnation, this is one book out that talks about reincarnation, talks about guidance, about the spirit guides involved. There's my book, The Cathar Dialogues, which happily is on Amazon and Kindle, and that just keeps moving along, the Cathar Codex. But the Cathar Dialogues is about my experience, and my friend Jim, who died some years ago now, but I introduced him and got him involved with his guide, Omni de Nabors, and his guide gave him 7 years of information, which we put down, and it became the Cathar Dialogues. And it was simply one human being, not an angel, not the guardian angel. It's simply one human being talking to another human being, except in what happens to be dead. Well, at the moment they're both dead, but at the time one was dead and one was alive. And so this is in my experience. I have had my connection with my guide, and I had that period where we were deeply connected and we could actually converse. I don't get that now, but I still get that about a week ago. I heard this voice at the back of my head, do the I Ching. Oh, and I don't do it. I do it. In fact, I didn't do it for 3 years, but then later I've been doing it, and it's just been giving me information. Some were warnings just to pull my head in and not to be too forward, because there's things that are happening at the moment which are people are trying to harm me. So just be yourself and just don't do anything stupid. So that was the essence. There were a couple of warnings, and then about a week ago, it was in the morning and in the afternoon, do the I Ching. Oh, well, okay. So I realised it was the same phrase, do the I Ching, and my guide, Brader. So I did the I Ching, and there it was, and it said, the cycle in your life has just been completed, and that these malevolent influences are out of the way, and this is a new cycle, and it is a very, very good cycle for you. It's not because of anything, it's just the actual nature of things, and this is you're coming into this new cycle, and things are going to be very good for you. Well, it's nice to get good news. So I can't say in the week anything spectacular has happened. Some nice things have been going, and that's fine. So what I'm trying to say is that people who do become serious about becoming a Cathar, or living like a Cathar, or adopting the Cathar the philosophy or way of life, the one thing, and this is depending on how serious you are, and actions are more serious than words. And as you go into and as you study and learn about Catharism, whatever is available to you, the one thing that seems to be the common denominator is that your guide. You will have this communication one way or another, and the way that your guide communicates with you might be quite unique and different to anybody else. But you'll have this guidance, this communication with your guide. And the moment, I'm saying, the moment that you know that you've had this, there's no mistaking the communication that you've had. You've either heard a voice or and most likely it'll be a voice one way or the other. And there's no doubt about it in your own mind. Then you realise all this other stuff that you're listening about and you're hearing about, and there's this and people's opinion and what was said in this book and what's said in that book and 2,000 years ago, and this you realise this all flies out the door. Suddenly you realise here you are. You now know beyond any, there's no mistake. You have this communication now with your guide. It might be spasmodic, it might be small, occasionally it might be very strong, and who knows which way it is, but invariably it's a voice, often internal and external at the same time. That guide, your guide, is there, whether you hear the voice or not. Your guide is there for your good, not just your metaphysical, your mystical, your spiritual good. It's for your physical good. My friend Jim, one of the first things that his guide said to him, he used to call him Gulyam, which was his Cathar name. He said, Gulyam, you should ask yourself, why should I ever smoke or drink again? Well, Gulyam, Jim, he gave up drinking immediately. He just stopped alcohol because he used to really, at times, he was a hard drinker, and it was damaging his health. He gave that away. But with the smoking, although he gave it away 3 or 4 times, he came back to it. And he said to Henri, he said, look, he said, I just find it's hard. And Henri said, of course it's hard, but if you don't give it up, then voluntarily, then you'll be giving it up involuntarily, and which happened because it was probably the smoking which done him in. So, to me, for anyone who's truly serious about adopting the Cathar philosophy, which is simply literally about love, the fact that we come from a source, the fact we are reincarnated, the fact we have the law of karma, which is not there to punish us, but to give us lessons so that we will grow, that we will evolve. And the person who goes out to live their life in that respect, the one payoff, you must, at some point, there must be this communication between you and your guidance, because this then is your signpost. This is your ticket to say, yes, John or Jack or Bill or Mary, Mohammed or whatever your name is, you are on the right track. You have me, I'm your guide, and I'm here there for you. And whenever you need me, ask for me. Now, I would say one of the most obvious things, if you're interested in guidance, talk to your guide. Sit down, chair for you, chair for her or him, but literally try and talk to your guide. Sit there in some area, it might be in the country, it might be in your room, it could be anywhere. But obviously I'd say somewhere where you've got privacy, and literally talk to your guide. Don't expect your guide to make the first step, because you need to make that first step. And if you're serious about your guide and you talk to your guide and you ask your guide in somehow or some manner to show you some manifestation that you're there, try and find that would be the first thing I suggest. But if you're saying, oh, my guide has never contacted me, but have you ever thought to speak to your guide in private? Ask her or him questions, ask for their help, and be serious. So that to me certainly would be a starting point. So if you haven't done that, well, I don't suppose you'd even started. So that to me, I would say, that to me is a major payoff for following the Cathar path. Taking Catharism seriously is the fact that you are going to receive guidance, and one way or another you will get this connection with your guide. And the moment that you have a connection with your guide, the rest doesn't really matter, because you know your guide is there, your guide is for you. You are not alone. You are not travelling alone. Well, you aren't, but it's only an opinion. But once you have a guide, it's no longer opinion, it is now reality. So, my wish to you is that if you find Catharism, and your Catharism may not be exactly the same as mine, that doesn't matter, as long as those fundamentals are there. My wish to you is that you have a connection, and not just a connection, a strong and loving connection with your guide, because he or she, your guide, is there, and most likely your guide is someone that has been with you and knows you from a previous existence. Best of luck on your journey. Bye for now.